Hey guys, this is Lovely, who with Lovely Esteem, and welcome back to the Infidelity and Confidence Rebuilding course. Remember, this is a free course to help us just learn how to learn how to express ourselves, help debunk stigmas, really bring a lot of the information that we need out into the open. There's no need to gatekeep. We're already jumping the fence because of what we're going through, right? Or what we have gone through. And we're learning how to heal and understand ourselves, understand other people, and also we're trying to level up our healing journey with practical tools that can help us through so many different situations. Betrayal doesn't just happen with infidelity, it just happens in life. And learning how to to attach the correct emotion to the facts of the situation helps us so much more. So today we're going to be talking about assertive communication versus aggressive communication and what that looks like for so many of us. Now, I may have started off aggressive and then learned how to be a little more assertive, and it may still come off aggressive. I look, I'm working on myself, right? Because assertive and aggressive communications are often confused, but they are fundamentally different in how they express needs, emotions, and boundaries. So, assertive communication, the definition, a confident and respectful way to express thoughts, needs, and feelings while considering others' rights and perspectives. How many of us can say that we actually know how to do that? Now, throw into that a traumatic, it's and like a traumatic experience or infidelity, betrayal, a Tuesday, hormones. Like, let's just be very honest with ourselves, right? So let's talk about the characteristics of an assertive communicator. Someone who uses I statements. I feel uncomfortable with when I would like to speak with you. I understand that maybe we should sit down. I am not happy in this relationship, right? Someone who maintains a calm and clear tone. They don't allow their feelings to they don't allow their feelings to lead the conversation. It doesn't mean that they don't have feelings about what's happening, but because they're trying to maintain and work on having a more neutral conversation so that way they can get the facts out instead of letting their feelings lead the facts, if that makes sense. Somebody who respects both their personal boundaries and other people's boundaries, right? Okay, so you don't like when I speak aggressive to you. I don't like when you're passive aggressive. So let's figure out how to meet in the middle. Someone who is an active listener and responds thoroughly. They listen to what you have to say to comprehend what you're saying versus to respond. That's a big one. That's a really hard one for so many people. Someone who focuses on finding solutions. You have to be you have to be very self-aware that you aren't shorting a person of their perspective or of their feelings when you're trying to find a solution sometimes, because if you're focused on finding a solution, sometimes you can railroad right through a person's emotional journey, so we have to pay attention to those. And someone who stands up for themselves without belittling others. You can absolutely say, I don't like the way you treat me. I statements, right? I am not comfortable standing here. And that can be it, the end of the sentence, instead of being like, I never liked your ass anyway. Them high waters get on my nerves. Listen, I got to think about high waters. There's something crazy about it. So let's give an example statement. I understand your point, but I need to express my perspective as well. I'd appreciate it if we could find a compromise. That by itself would probably send most people who don't have effective communication skills off the rails. Why? I understand your point, but what? I need to express my perspective. I don't even want to hear what you got to say. I'd appreciate it if we could find a compromise. I'm not compromising for shit because if you don't listen to me, you see how you can, and that's why we talk about practicing, 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 learning how to speak up for yourself, having these communication practices with yourself where you say things out loud. You have conversations out loud, even if nobody's there, so that you can get used to hearing your own voice. Because when you go into an aggressive uh situation and you can hear the shakiness of your voice as you're trying to gain your footing, those are the things that you really want to work on. It doesn't mean that you still won't have like a moment where like your whole body is shaking, because that's your nerves going, hey, we don't like it here, this stress is really high and we would prefer to leave. But if you have something to deal with or something to take care of, you may not be able to leave. So what does aggressive communication look like, right? So let's talk about the definition of an aggressive communicator: a forceful, dominating, and often disrespectful way of expressing needs and emotions, prioritizing one's own view over others. We've all met this person. Right now, the world is being introduced for a second time to people like this. Um, it can be very stressful and I was going to say something and I'm working on myself. It can be a very tumultuous conversation. It can be a time where you're like, shut it, buddy, is not going to be what we need. But what are the characteristics of an aggressive communicator? Someone who uses you statement. They always want to blame you. You never listen. If it wasn't for you, you need to do better, right? Someone who raises their voice, interrupts you when you're talking, or tries to talk over people. They won't even let you get any information out there. Someone who is very dismissive and disrespectful of other people's opinions. Someone who uses threats, intimidation, and sarcasm, and someone who focuses on winning rather than resolving issues, uses you statements that blames others, raises voice, interrupts, talks over others, dismisses and disrespects others' opinions, uses threats, intimidation, and sarcasm, focuses on winning rather than solving issues. It couldn't have been a righter time to talk about aggressive communication. An example statement: you always ignore what I say. I don't care what you think. I'm right. Let's talk about the key differences between assertive communication and aggressive communication. So, if you say the word respect, mutual respect would be assertive, disrespectful would be aggressive. Tone, calm and firm would be assertive. Loud, demanding, and harsh would be aggressive. Goal, understanding and resolution. Aggressive, control and domination. So now we're going to do an assertive communication exercise. I'm creating this video because I feel like this is one of those things that you can always go back and get a better idea, a clearer idea of how you can handle things. It's not how you're supposed to, because how you deal with your anger, that's solely up to you, right? But when you are working on healing, when you are working on building healthier communication skills so that you can learn to trust your voice, yourself, your decisions, this is why we work on things like first practicing I statements. I statements help you take away the aggression and passive statements that we may use, right? So, an example of an aggressive statement would be, you never listen to me. An assertive way to say the same thing would be, I feel unheard when I am interrupted. I'd appreciate it if you could let me finish my thoughts before you respond. It's not always going to be this clear cut. However, this is what we practice every day to learn how to make these I statements, because a lot of the times when you're making I statements, it cools off the conversation, because people will show their true colors. Because if you say, I feel uncomfortable right now, well, I made you feel uncomfortable. I never said that. I said, I'm uncomfortable right now. It gives you a chance to take ownership of the thoughts, of the feeling, of the statement. And then you can let that be like a lead in to having deeper conversations, right? So you always make decisions without me asking. What would you say if that was how you spoke to someone aggressively? What would you say to change that? You always make decisions without asking me. What would you say? So that's your exercise. So next we want to talk about the broken record technique. I I used to sound like Mojo Jojo. I say something 3 or 4 times because I'm like, maybe you didn't hear me, instead of me realizing that maybe I was being aggressive, if that makes any sense. So the purpose of this is to help you stand your ground by calmly repeating your point when someone pressures you, right? So the example would be, I appreciate your offer, but I'm not interested. I understand your perspective, but I still feel uncomfortable with that choice. I hear you, but I need time to think about it before making a decision. You see how it was the exact same meaning 3 different ways. I just used to say it in the most negative way. I am Mojo Jojo. Mojo Jojo am I because I am Mojo Jojo. It just used to be like, they heard you. You still aren't communicating healthy, and it doesn't make sense. If you aren't communicating healthy and they don't have a healthy communication style, how is this going to work? That's why you work on yourself, because when you work on your boundaries, how you talk to people, how you communicate, how you deal with conflict, you see how you kind of start turning things around. So one of the things I want you to practice is, think of a situation where someone pressures you. What could you say in an assertive, calm way? How could you use those broken records techniques to really help you negotiate and also get your point across in a more assertive way versus an aggressive way? So next, we're going to talk about practicing boundary setting. Remember, if you are going to be using I statements and the broken record statement, we have to remember that boundaries are so important at this moment. So the exercise is to identify a boundary you need to reinforce and practice saying it assertively. We are learning how to say, I understand how you feel. I am still uncomfortable. I am going to need to think on this. Thank you so much for getting back to me. I'm still thinking it over. I'll let you know how I feel once I'm finished thinking about it, or once I'm comfortable with the thought. I am still uncomfortable with the thought, and I'm going to have to pass on it this time, right? That's what we're learning how to do. So an example is a boundary. A friend always calls you late at night. Super simple, right? You're like, well, I mean, how hard is it to answer the phone? But what if you've said repeatedly, I'm in the bed by 9:30. Why are you calling me at 10:30? If my boobs are out, I don't need a phone call, is what I'm saying. So an assertive response would be, I value our conversations, but I go to bed early. Let's talk at a time that works for both of us. And the person would be like, you always sleep. Let's come up with a time that works for both of us. When are you available, right? So you can ask the question, what's a boundary you need to set? How can you express it assertively? How can you get to a point where you hear what the other person is saying? You also have your own opinion about it. How can you meet in the middle so that both sides are heard? It's not going to be easy. Somebody's going to be like, hey, but you always used to answer the phone. All of a sudden, you can't answer the phone now? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ooh, ah. If you know what that is, comment. I'm telling you, sometimes you just gotta, if you're the person who always got a song for something, just let me know. Just put a heart inside of the comment section. It makes me giggle. So one of the other things that you can think about is role playing scenarios. This is you practicing in front of the mirror or with a friend that you feel comfortable with when you're trying when you know you're going to have to deal with an issue, or when you know that you're going to have a tough conversation. So, one thing you can do is learning how to decline an invitation. I appreciate your invite, but I have other plans. I appreciate your invite, but I'm not comfortable coming to that party. I appreciate your invite, but that's just not my crowd. I appreciate your invite. You put so much effort into that. It was so lovely. maybe I'll catch you next time. Asking a friend, I mean, sorry, next thing you can do is asking for help at work. I need clarification on this task. Can you guide me? Could you send me an email with your requirements so that I can make sure that I check off each one of those? Sometimes that'll work. If you are talking to a per my email person, listen, babes, chat GPT it, drop it in. If it don't work, if the AI can't fix it, I don't know if I can. And the third thing you can do is addressing a disrespectful comment. I'd prefer not to be spoken to that way. Let's keep our conversation respectful. I know that that can be very difficult, especially when you're in places where people think that you are beneath them, or they feel that they have the right to talk to you that way, or they are very passive aggressive with their comments. Maybe you have somebody who says something like, "Oh, I could never wear that outfit." And you may usually respond back with, "I don't think you could either." Then that is absolutely an assertive aggressive conversation right there, darling. However, a lot of us would just be like, "Oh, you definitely could wear this," because we're trying to soothe over what was said to you versus said, "I'd prefer to not be spoken to that way. Let's keep our conversation respectful." One, it calls everybody to the table, especially if you are in an open space where now everybody's like, "Oh my God, what happened?" And you have to be very wise when using this because you have to read your room. Read the room. I'm not saying don't speak up for yourself, but you may have to reword that sentence in a way that makes sense for the room that you're in. So now I want you to pick a scenario where you struggle with assertiveness and practice how you would respond. Remember, you're going to practice with a friend or in front of a mirror. And that's just a cool little way to think about that. So we want to now focus on confidence boosting with our body language. This one was such I took a whole class on this because I believe that body language is so much, right? People closed off. I don't believe the shit you saying, right? Face all tore up. People who talk with their hands when they're super excited, open, people who can stand with like their hands to their side, maybe somebody who steeples their hands, right? People who talk with their hands like this, people who hunch over versus people who stand up super straight, people who can look you in the eye versus not, right? So, one of the exercises that we can do is stand in front of the mirror and check and see what's going on with you. Is your posture, is your posture straight? Are you standing tall, shoulders relaxed, right? Before you ready to go into that meeting that you're going to kill, darling. I know you are. Or before you ready to go talk to somebody and you're like, let me see where I'm at. Let me do a body check. So posture, am I standing tall, shoulders relaxed? Eye contact, are you able to look somebody directly in the eye and have a conversation with them about things that may be unpleasant or things that you think are super cool, right? Like trying your best not to look at them and be aggressive because sometimes you can be like, I'm telling you, what my mouth don't say, my eyebrows do. Facial expressions, learning how to have a calm, neutral, and I don't really believe in the slightly smiling, but that's what they tell you to do because my slight smile looks like a smirk and it looks like I'm trying to start some shit. And I don't want to be starting something. That's not what I'm trying to do. I just know that if you're not funny, I'm not gonna laugh. That's the way it works itself out. And check your voice. Talk to yourself. See where you're at. When you are experiencing anxiety, when your nerves are on edge, when you're excited and your nervous system is all a buzz, you know that feeling where it almost feels like you're mechanical. You can hear yourself having a conversation because there's so much happening. Your heart is breathing fast, your palms are sweaty, you may have rapid eye movement because you're trying to like really steady yourself and make sure that your voice is clear. And when that happens, I want you to take a super deep breath. Like I want you in through your nose. Relax those shoulders. Yes, we are. We're relaxing our shoulders. We're going to rub our shoulders down. We want to take that breath that we have right here and we want to drop it down into our diaphragm. It's that area where you go when you're trying to sing, right? And if you don't know what it is, I want you to take your fist, put it into your stomach, and I want you to push it out, right? You want to push it out. You're trying to push air in that. So you want to blow all the air out of your mouth. Now you want to go in through your nose, expand that belly. You want to have a bit of every time I talk. You want to push in that, and then you want to let that air out of your mouth, right? You want to do that about 3 times. It really helps calm you down. It helps regulate your nervous system. It can help you with some of that sweating that's happening. I'm just saying, or you could use the body deodorant, rub yourself down, have the meeting, and then go wash it off because you're gonna be dry as hell. And you know what? Never mind. Let me not even talk about that. But those are some of the ways, right? And then you can say affirmations to yourself before you have to do something, right? My voice matters. I have the right to express myself with confidence and respect. And when you are confident, when you are expressing yourself with respect, when you are commanding that you be respected, other people will respect you or they'll look like the fool. And I'm not going to try to look like Boo Boo the fool in front of a bunch of people, but there's some out here. There's some people out here. Listen to me. There are some people out here, darling, I'm telling you. So, one of the tips that I love to think about is assertiveness is a skill that grows with practice. Start small, be patient with yourself, and celebrate every step forward because you're not going to always do it right. And that's okay. We all stumble, we fall forward, we fail forward, and it's okay. We are just learning how to be a little more assertive with what we got here. We just learning how to like work it out. Work it out. Work it. You know what? I'm liking this class too much. That's the problem. That's the problem. Liking doing this class too much. I'm gonna work on myself, y'all. I'm working on myself. Y'all be good.